In the name of the Father, and the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. We are in the second Sunday of Lent after the preparation Sunday, and we continue with the theme that began the Lent. And I want to go back and remind you of the first verse that we read in the Lent, and it was on Saturday. That's the Vespers, preparing for Sunday, and was the 22nd of February, where we began Lent. And the Vesper verse that started Lent as a beginning, the invitation, it said that, I can't get the calendar to agree with me. The verse was about stillness. It was about stillness. And it said, "Be still and know that I am God." Be still and know that I am God. So it sets up the tone for the whole Lent. It has two pieces. Be still is to quiet ourselves, to take away all the noise as much as we can. I can get the verse to come up. Be still and know that I am God. To be still is to quiet down from that busyness, from that going around, that rat race we are all engaged in, including people who work in the church. Be still. And the second is, and know that I am God, to know God. And hopefully that one leads to the other. We cannot be still and find nothing. That's going to be Buddhism. You know, that's how Buddhism achieve stillness, by casting out all desires. You know, Buddha in his philosophy said, pains and suffering in the world come from desires. When we want things and we get frustrated because we can't have them. And we are anxious because we want to have them and we're not sure that we're going to have them. So anxiety and frustration. So people sometimes are anxious. They want stuff and they don't know if they're going to get it. And then after they get it, they're worried that they're going to lose it. So that anxiety is what eats up every human being since the exile from the paradise. So be still is to cast out all those desires and demands. And the basic one of all of them is food. Food. Be still and know that I am God. And the second part, know that I am God, is to know God. To behold Him, to really look closer and have a closer walk with God. Today, as a follow-up, all the themes, all the Gospels actually are building up on that theme, the stillness. Jesus focused very much on the anxiety. It is about the anxiety that we all have to fight. The an anxiety that comes from what should we eat, what should we wear. It keeps us busy. And then the biggest one of all is the anxiety of collecting money. And last night I spoke about this. We all have an anxiety. And the longer you live, the more anxiety that you have. When we were young, we didn't have much. A baby who's just in the cradle, drinks milk, finds his mother. If he's scared or she's scared, what do? They cry, and it's enough for them to be in the arms of their parent. And that's it. If mama's close and the child is crying and she takes him and presses him against her chest, what will happen? Usually if there is no pain or suffering, the child is calmed down. But as you grow up and become a teenager, that doesn't work. It does not work. You cannot take the child whenever they cry and they will say, no, I'm not a child anymore. because they're worried about other things, and mainly they are worried about loneliness. They're afraid to be lonely. They want to be accepted and have friends. Everyone longs for intimate friends. And you grow up a little bit and you have an intimate relationship and a family and a wife and a husband and children. What are we worried about? Their children's future, of course. We want them to be healthy. We want them to have means. We want the best education. We want them to be good part of the society. We want to have some money for them to go to college. We want them to have good marriages. And it's going to go on and on and on and on. We're going to become a grandparent. You have two sets of generations to worry about. Okay? So this anxiety doesn't get better. I said this last night about the story of the company that it was a made-up story. It's like a fiction. Tawfiq al-Hakim was one of the brightest writers in Egypt. He didn't get the Nobel Prize, but he wrote very good stuff. And I read those, one book has short stories in it about this company that made this great computer software, and they made a computer for it specially. And you can input in it all your personal stuff. It will ask you certain questions. It goes on for 2-3 hours interviewing you. And after it finishes, it processes this, and then it spits out your future. And it's in the great details. So they said the engineer who invented this program, the one who had the idea, committed suicide. So they got his helper to take over the project, committed suicide. They got somebody else to look into it, was about to throw himself from the window. They caught him and said, what's wrong? What's going on? Why everybody's throwing themselves off windows, shooting themselves in the head? And they said, just let me go, because I thought it would be better. So I saw my life, and it's disappointing. At the end of it, I didn't get what I was expecting. That's what we are anxious about, all of us. Are we going to get what we need? So for this reason, people turn this anxiety. Those of us who are conforming and innovators will actually work very hard to make money. And they have the means and the ideas. They go study, have degrees, and do all kinds of things. And we're very busy doing that, to assure that we have enough means when we get older. We have a good retirement plan. You have the best health insurance. You have a good home. It's paid off. And then many people say that. I want to have stability. Stability. So for that stability, what do we do? A lot. We work like slaves, especially in a capitalistic community or a culture. So what is Jesus saying today? Is actually attacking this idea from A to Z. He starts from the basic and goes all the way to the money, 1 point at a time. So let's look into what he said, because based on this, we are going around doing all kinds of things. And he said this is nothing but a sign of low faith. We are not trusting God enough. So when he says be still, the first station that we are going to have to fight to be still is this anxiety. So he says, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth, rust, destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. What is moth and thieves? What is recession? What's market problems but an anxiety to everyone? You know that here it's easy to lay off. People are laid off right and left. So if I put my trust in the job I have, what do I have? An anxiety. Will they get rid of me? Would I be not needed in this company anymore? So put money in the bank. People think it's safe. They say a recession might come. It's safer than any other place, but still. Then he says, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. What does he mean by lay treasures in heaven? How can you deposit in the heavenly bank? Where is that branch? What's the branch of the bank that goes into heaven? What Jesus said at some other place. It's actually in Matthew 19:21. He said to the rich man, go sell everything you have and give it to the poor, then you will have treasure in heaven. Whatever you give to the poor, that's the ATM of heaven. That's your bank outlet that goes directly to heaven. He said when you give it to the poor, and that's why it's one of the most essential items of Lent is giving. Giving. So in Lent, we practice an extra giving. So where are you going to get the money? Say when you cut your feed, your foods, and your dines into minimum vegetarian. And I was asking this. I said, people, when you go and eat like vegan diet, you will cut your spending on food maybe 80%. You will only spend 20%. Some women said to me, no, Abuna, the vegan food, the Lent food is more expensive. I said, only when you eat the substitutes. You go and get like vegan meatballs. Of course, it's more expensive than meatballs. If you get vegan, I remember there was a store in Boston where you go there, it's a restaurant, and you go there, they give you like duck breast, but it's all vegan. It tasted good, but for those of us who are craving so much meat, we can't let it go. And vegan burger and vegan this and vegan that. What happened to lentil soup? What happened to full medammes in the morning, like beans and some olive oil? And a bag of lentil, like 2 pounds, is $5. You know how much that makes? A whole pot of lentil that would last for a week. So it's not expensive. It's when we are craving meat and we want to substitute it, this is when it becomes expensive. So what do you do with the rest of the money if you're going to do the minimum vegan food? Give it. Give it out. That's the whole point. So you don't spend more. You just exchange what you're eating in the regular days with simpler food that doesn't taste as good. No, it's like lentil soup doesn't taste like a steak, you know. It's okay. It's fine. That's Lent. And then I give that to the poor, or I give it to the God's causes. So he says, put your treasure in heaven. And he says, because where your treasure is, there is your heart. Meaning, when you work so hard for money and you put your money in the bank, I bet you your thoughts and your feelings is in that bank day and night. How are you going to make that money grow? How are you going to keep it? What are you going to do with it? What plans you have for that money? Some people who have a sickness with money, they don't have any plans. They just want the money. That's it. Money for money. And that's all what I care. Money is something very important. They ask him, why is it important? I just have to have it, Abuna. Sometimes they say it's security. Sometimes they say, I don't know, but I have to have it. This is important. That's the most important thing in life. That's crazy. These are addicted to money. Then he turns to the other one that makes us very anxious, is jealousy. Jealousy. He says, when your eye is simple, your whole body is lit up. But if your eye is not simple or evil, what is an evil eye? You know, those who have superstition, they say, you know, the Jews have this hands, they put it in their houses. It's like, stop the evil eye with an eye in it. What's an evil eye? An eye that looks with envy, greed, jealousy. I want what he has. I want what she has. That creates an anxiety too. That creates an anxiety. He said that an anxiety will turn your body into darkness. And he said that's why nobody can serve two masters. And I want you to look at this verse. Very, very interesting what Jesus is using, the terms, the words he used. No one can serve two masters. He says, for either he will hate, it's a strong word. We say to kids, don't say hate. It's a very strong word. Will hate the one and love the other. Or else he will be loyal to the one. And the second very strong word, despise. Hate and despise. Who are we talking about here? Who are we talking about to hate and despise? He says, if you love money, you will hate and despise who? God. So no one can serve two masters, or either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will be loyal to the one, despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. Mammon is money. So he says that's why he said, do not be worried. Here is, in Arabic, it's not very clear. It's the same word. In Arabic, the word tahtam means to care. But it's actually, the right translation is to worry. What's the difference between caring and worrying? You care, you plan, you work. But what about worrying? It's an idle, idle and anxiety that doesn't do anything. You go into circles. So you sit there in your room, or you sit in your car, and you're thinking, what I'm going to do with this? How I'm going to buy this house? How I'm going to do this? How I'm going to pay the bills at the end of the month? And there's no solution. And every time you go into a cycle, what happens? You get anxious. You go in a second cycle, you discover you can't do anything about it. You get more anxious. And then after 2-3 cycles of this, what do? What happens? You go into panic. Panic. We lose it. We completely lose it. And we freeze. So what's he saying? He said, do not be worried. Okay, and I asked the question, so Abuna, I shouldn't be doing anything? I don't have to work? I'm going to go be a hermit or a monk? Is that what Jesus is talking about? What's the difference between working and planning and worrying? There's a great difference. We do as servants, as ministers, as stewards of things, but we don't do as owners. That's the first key. You don't do things as you are the owner, the one responsible for your fate. I said that last night, I'm going to say it again. I'm responsible to study as a student. Am I responsible to get high grades? Is that my responsibility? No. Sometimes we fool ourselves into thinking this way. I'll do my best as a student, as a faithful person God has trusted him. Am I responsible for gathering money or working as a good doctor who knows how to heal their patients? What's my responsibility? Am I working as an accountant or a teacher, as a good one who's God entrusted him with his work, or somebody who just cares about collecting the best money he can? I will leave this job and go to another job and get a better money, but they will work me like a dog. It doesn't matter. That's my goal. What is my responsibility? So I do what I do because I'm a faithful steward by God. It's not my responsibility to have results. There's a verse from Nehemiah that says, the Lord of heaven grant us success or grant us prosperity, and we, his servants, rise up and work. God gives the prosperity. God gives the success. God gives the passing. But what is my job? Is to work. And he said, then here comes the part of the faith. Do not be worried about what you eat and what you wear. The life that God created in his eyes is better than food, and the body is better than the clothing. Look at the birds of the heaven. And here is something beautiful that happens that always amazes me when I think about it. Where is Jesus bringing this from? He came to the earth, and he lived in a human body. What's he doing? I like this part from Jesus of Nazareth, and the beginning of the movie. His name is Zaffarelli, the director. Put this very beautiful scene. He said, a scene opens up in Nazareth, in a carpenter shop, where there's an older man working on a piece of wood with the saw, and a man, it seems like a customer, coming to that carpenter, and he says, Joseph, is my tables finished? And Joseph says, it's about to be finished. I asked my son to work on it. Okay? And said, so where is your son? He's out in the fields. So Joseph said. And then the man said, okay, is that supposed to happen? And Joseph said, well, I tell him, we need to finish the work. And he says, I must be about my father's business. And the man asks, so why he's not here? Why is he not here? And that closes that scene. What's happening? Jesus is out in his father's business. What's his father's business? The stuff he made. Joseph makes wood stuff. And the father made what? Nature. He made the whole universe. So he's going to look into the birds of the air, the lilies of the field, the sky, the clouds. What's he doing? He's filling his human soul with his father's business. He's looking. And out of that, he comes out from this seclusion, from this father's business every day, and he tells us, I look at the birds of the field, the birds of the sky. Look with me. See how God created them. That's how he thinks. That's how he lives. There's other stuff that he's looking into, not just what humans is doing and who's eating what and who's drinking what and who's wearing what and who's buying what. This is not of his business. Father's business, which will make a strong faith, is to look at God's creation, God's creatures. He says, when I look at them, I ask myself, are they worried about anything? No. Do they care? Do they even do anything? No. They're very free in their souls. And their little existence, they have no protection, they have nothing. They don't feed themselves. They actually go and whatever they find, they eat. And if any one of you is worried, can he actually do anything about his life? Most essential things, our bodies. So he looks at this as his daily work, and that's the work of Lent. The work of Lent is what you do, is you turn your gaze into God's work. And he said, but then if you want to pray, don't think too much about that stuff. Don't be anxious about it. Go and think about God's business. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. That is the stillness that Jesus is asking. It's not an empty stillness. It's not a stillness to do nothing, like a Zen Buddhist sitting in the Zen garden looking at all the corners and trying to see all of them at the same time. That's what they do, to achieve 10 minutes of peace, nirvana. That's not what we do. We are emptying ourselves to have a relationship with a person, with someone that cares a lot about us. We empty ourselves to engage in a different relationship, to look at a different perspective, to get a different glimpse, to really be God's people. And that is Lent activity. Be still and know that I am God. To him is the glory. Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, now and forever. Amen.